Hi there, welcome to the Dylan Rounds case. There has been breaking news just recently in regards to the plea deal details being revealed now, the shocking implications behind it, the disrespect to the Dylan Rounds case, and the charges being lessened. All these details revealed today, and on top of that, a rough, brief autopsy report for the cause of death of Dylan Rounds. All of that will be revealed today in the latest breaking news article. I'm going to read through it. I'll give you my raw reactions and analysis on the matter. I believe there's also a little timeline as well mentioned within the article. We'll adjust that and look at it. And welcome to everyone watching, whether it be in its live premiere. Share your thoughts, opinions in the live chat box, or if you're watching later on catch up. I do strongly advise you to watch from start to finish to understand every key piece of detail and information. You don't want to miss it. It's very interesting and it's somewhat shocking, and there's some twists and turns in between, and it also unlocks the potential for some more video ideas. Be on the lookout for it. So leave any of your thoughts, comments, additional reactions, questions down below under this video, and be sure to like and share this video to as many people possible so they hear about the latest updates on the Dylan Rounds case and the implications behind it all with what's recently gone on since Dylan Rounds been found, okay? If you want to check out down below my pinned comment with some additional links, feel free to do so. And if you simply want to catch up on previous videos you've missed out on, or the Dylan Rounds playlist covered by me, created, top right corner of the screen, click on that eye symbol, you'll be able to find it all there. So make sure to focus, listen in, get ready. It's time to look at the breaking news. Here we are as we begin reading the title. Murdered Dylan Rounds' mother, Candice Cooley, fears she will never get closure and calls investigation a circus as suspect faces court. So I'm assuming the suspect Brenner facing court is to do with that preliminary, which is either today or tomorrow, whatever the date is, the 15th. So it's right around the corner, literally speaking. Murdered Dylan Rounds, that's correct. But for it to say Candice Cooley fears she will never get closure, that's weird, that, because I thought closure has already been brought. Maybe not the complete amount, but in terms of being able to find Dylan, to know what truly happened to him. So finding him buried, which means obviously murdered, but there's closure there in knowing whether he was dead or alive. That's a form of closure. The next part of closure is the location. And then the final part of closure would be bringing him back home. But maybe the true form of closure, or the next step, would be the justice for Dylan Rounds, which would be the court, the trial, whatever, the proceedings of what happens next to Brenner and what are the plea details, things like that. So I guess what Candice Cooley has heard about certain details, and that's why she's worrying that there will never be complete closure. Interesting. To call the investigation a circus act. I mean, as by the hands of L.E., we've heard those references mentioned in the past. But what about the court situation with Brenner? Or subheading here, or caption, the terms of a plea bargain could see the killer get a longer sentence for firearm charges than murder. And maybe you could argue that's kind of shocking. Steve Brenner, exclusive reporter. I'm assuming that Steve Brenner is not related to the murderer James Brenner by any means. Bit of a creepy coincidence there. It was updated 10:10 ET, May 15th, 2024. Oh, May 15th. Oops. So it is May 15th today. Okay. Because this was posted 3 hours ago from when I'm doing this recording right now. So, yeah, the preliminary as of today. Take in mind, me recording this video is earlier on in the day, whilst people from the US would be probably just waking up, okay? So if people think I'm reporting on this late, I am not. I'm actually reporting on it probably before it's even happened, or whilst it's going underway at least. Just understand that, okay? Remember, time zone difference between the UK and US. It says, the devastated mom, Candice Cooley, of murdered son Dylan Rounds, fears she will never get closure from the nightmare that turned her life upside down. It's interesting how it just mentions that Candice Cooley's life turned upside down. What about the other people, friends and family members? I guess it's just because Candice Cooley is the one being vocal, so they're just focusing on her for now. There was a video at the top of this article, just a 17-second clip of Candice Cooley talking. Wasn't exactly relevant, so that's why I've not included it. Suspect James Brenner is due in court on Wednesday, so that'll be today, for the first time since agreeing to a plea bargain last month in return for leading Candice Cooley to where her beloved son was buried. Now, that's kind of incorrect how they've worded it here. Brenner did not lead Candice Cooley to the burial site. It was Brenner who led authorities to the site. And I believe the FBI assisted as well, joining on in with the LE. And then later in the day, was it around 11 or something a.m., Candice Cooley family were notified of the finding, which was it April 9th? So it all occurred on the same day, but Candice Cooley knew about it, was informed about it after, once Brenner has led authorities. So they kind of worded it wrong here, okay? There's Brenner from previous appearance in court. Suspect Brenner has been in custody for months, but progress in the case has been painfully slow. There's an older photo of Candice Cooley on the right, Dylan on the left. Dylan Round's mum, Candice Cooley Wright, has told the US Sun she's fearful of what will happen in the courts, even though her beloved son remains have been found. So I guess there's a lack of confidence at this moment in time. Interesting. Now take in mind, we're looking at this news article. This news article has been created, I guess, before the actual preliminary hearing. So subjects could change with time. Candice Cooley told the US Sun she hopes to see the squatter, Brenner, who was initially charged with aggravated murder and abuse or desecration of a human body, along with firearm charges, handed a hefty prison term for murdering 19-year-old Dylan, who went missing from their Utah farm in May 2022. But with Brenner, 61 years old, having his charge reduced to murder from aggravated, the sentence for the gun felonies could bring in a heftier sentence than the killing itself. Right, so now they're saying could. Not that it has, but it could. I might have to reword the title of this video slightly just so it's more appropriate at this moment. I mean, is there anything to go over here? Originally charged with aggravated murder and desecration of Dylan Rounds and with firearm charges which were unrelated, handed a hefty prison term. Right, so that's what Candice Cooley hopes for. That Brenner is handed a hefty prison term for what he did to Dylan. And then it says, but with having his charge reduced to murder from aggravated... What? I mean, apologies if I'm lacking in knowledge here. Reduced to murder. Well, what else? What would it be before or murder? Like, let me just make sense of this. In the past, when it came to that Maryland shooting, and at first it was treated as attempted murder, and then it was reduced, the sentence, the charge, to malicious wounding, hurting someone but not with intent to kill. So you can see how it was reduced there, the significance of that event, making it sound not as bad. But here, it's been reduced to murder. Well, what was it before? Aggravated murder then? Wait, let me just check out the definition quickly. I just wanted to, have a quick look at definition. Aggravated murder is a more serious charge than murder by itself. because it occurs when someone kills another person whilst in prison or whilst committing, attempting to commit, or fleeing after committing a crime such as, kidnapping, trespassing, or burglary. So, like an umbrella term. So what? Aggravated, basically done with intent. It was meant to be. What? Because it occurs when someone kills another person in prison. Well, obviously, Brenner didn't kill Dylan in prison. So what's the next option? Or whilst committing or attempting to commit murder. Attempting murder, committing with intent. What? That just sounds so stupid in a way. Okay, aggravated, it's more of a serious charge. But, as we've seen for quite some time now with Brenner's situation, Brenner was charged with aggravated murder, right? Let's just go back to this article. So I've just returned back on here, as I said I would. I thought I'd just add in that little definition back there instead of constantly asking or leaving questions. Might as well do it on the spot whilst I'm here. But, we're seeing it. Look, it even says up there, initially, Brenner charged with aggravated murder, abuse or desecration of a human body. And that's how it's been all this time until now. Is this to do with that plea deal, part of the details? That because Brenner has decided to reveal to the authority the location of where he buried Dylan, the charge of Brenner has been reduced from aggravated murder to just plain murder. That just sounds a bit silly. I mean, see, this is the thing. I'm not from the US. I'm not a criminal. Never got in trouble. Never killed anyone. So I'm not going to know everything or all the key words and terms like some people out there do, okay? I do look at other things. I've got better knowledge probably in maps than I do with court-related stuff, okay? But I just think it's a bit silly, to be honest. I mean, let me know your thoughts in the chat. What do you think about this, right? Brenner's having his charge reduced from aggravated murder to just flat out murder. I mean, there was a contesting in the past. Was it planned? Was it a snap moment? At the end of the day, murder is murder. There's a form of intent to hurt or kill that person in front. It just seems like this is, well, not quite, but once again, kind of slipping through Brenner, just like how it was with the Maryland shooting. Shooting a person for a work dispute, originally seen as attempted murder, and then reduced to just a malicious wounding. And now here, because it was literally flat out murder, and originally seen as aggravated murder, now the charge has been reduced. So I'm assuming that the charge being reduced is all through that plea deal being made with Brenner. Which, to be honest, could be seen as a kick in the teeth in the name of Dylan Rounds, the victim, and the parents as well. Seeing the actual charges being changed, despite what Brenner did to Dylan Rounds. They're saying that aggravated murder is a more serious charge than murder itself. When the family see it being changed, it's been reduced, it's, what do you call it, diminishing it, kind of minimalizing in a way. Yeah, I can understand that feeling of justice going away. It's kind of like when you get like a rape case and it's like thrown out the window, or it's kind of reduced to something, or it's not quite how it should be, and then the victim feels like they've not got the full justice because that person hasn't been fully charged or hasn't been accused fully of this or proven whatever. Yeah, it's not looking too good, to be honest. Not looking too good. But it does go on to say the sentence for the gun felonies could bring in a longer sentence than the killing itself. So besides the charges on Brenner being reduced and minimalised, so there's not as much justice there in the name of Dylan Rounds, bit of a mockery in a way, on top of it all, Brenner is getting in more trouble with unrelated charges, gun charges, which aren't as serious as killing someone, and yet a longer sentence possibly. Yeah, what a mess. So I can understand why Candice Cully won't be too pleased. I mean, there might be some people in the chat right now that think this is normal or okay. I don't know. I'm not from the US. I don't know how dodgy the place is or the courts or the charges and stuff, okay? But me just reading it for the first time round, it just doesn't seem too good, right? And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but there was the contesting in the past when it came to the snap, or was it planned, the murder of Dylan Rounds, and it was going back and forth, and eventually, because it was seen more as a snap rather than it being planned, the death penalty on Brenner was dropped, taken off the tables. So there was that there. But besides that, it was still seen as aggravated murder all the way up until now. So it must be the plea deal then, being responsible for this. Brenner opens up, reveals the location to where Dylan is, and in return, Brenner has his charges reduced from aggravated to just simple murder, which is a kick in the teeth, kick in the face for the family, for Dylan Rounds. Yeah. But there's no mention yet about how long the sentence would be or how, if it has been reduced. It's just only saying that the sentence for other unrelated charges may be increased or just longer. See, it's not quite saying it's the gun charges have been increased, made longer. It's that possibly the actual charges in the name of Dylan Rounds' case have been reduced so that the original unrelated gun charges may surpass the murder charge in terms of the sentencing length. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. Because it says it there, the sentence for the gun felonies could bring in a heftier sentence than the killing itself. So there is still uncertainty there. Candice Cooley has spoken extensively to the US Sun over the last 12 months, laying bare her pure frustration at the investigation led by Box Elder cops and how the authorities have continued to drag their feet in the desperate search for Dylan. Yet the letter of the law in her home state could extend her family's bitter anguish. Read more on Dylan Rounds, victim, suspect. I think that's pretty obvious, that. Family breaks silence after suspect leads cops to body of missing teen father. So is this like everything all in one brought back up? I don't know. Dylan Rounds' mother reveals cops spread false rumours about missing son. Oh, is this to do with all the past problems? Well, we might as well read it whilst we're here. In June 2022, court documents pertaining to 3 counts of firearm charges stated the discovery of ball ammunition, ignition caps, black powder and speed loads, all related to muzzle loading. 9 months later, Brenner was hit with criminal homicide, aggravated murder and abuse or desecration of a human body, Dylan Rounds, as cops honed in on Dylan's mysterious disappearance. Sentencing, however, could take at least another 2 months. Murder is currently a first-degree felony in the state, with the suspect facing 15 years to life in jail. Okay, so I guess there's some additional details there. Let me know your thoughts, but the sentencing itself could take another 2 months. So still a waiting game. Some details could change and vary from now till later, and with that preliminary hearing, if it goes underway and the outcome of that, things could change. We'll just have to wait and see. But the same that the suspect Brenner facing 15 years to life in jail, unless that's just like the general guidelines when it comes to a form of murder, first degree in that state. So you would face 15 years to life. It could vary in between. Now, I wonder how many years it would be if it remained as aggravated murder. Just pure life in jail? More than 15 years? I wonder. I mean, what, Brenner, 61, 15 years in jail. He could still well be alive when released. Maybe not as much of a threat to people because of his age and health, but if he's got a firearm around, he could still be a threat. Random stuff there, blah, blah, blah. Now, in quotes, we plead down from aggravated to murder as part of the plea bargain, Candice Cooley said. Or she said. I'm assuming it's Candice Cooley said. Right, okay, so this is mentioning a bit from earlier on in the article. So that's good to know, right? We plead down from aggravated murder, the charge, to just murder on Brenner as part of the plea deal bargain. So details have finally been released to do with the plea deal. That's something we were looking and waiting for. It was something that was recently talked about in that Box Elder news journal when Cade Palmer said how things couldn't be released yet because of the legal implications. And then we saw that response by Candice Cooley saying, well, we'll tell our side of the story at some point. And I guess this is part of it, I'm guessing. Okay. So that plea deal, as good as it is Brenner doing the plea deal and locating Dylan Rounds and bringing closure there to the family, the downside is that the actual charges themselves are reduced. The actual charge, the name, the label has been reduced. So it does feel like you're losing that grip over Brenner as to what Brenner did and what he's responsible for. And by reducing it, it's kind of diminishing and minimalizing the actual impact and the actions. But, you give and take. You give something, you get something back. And, I can imagine the family not being too pleased with this. And, in the past, the reason why the family didn't want a plea deal was more so because they didn't want Brenner to be released earlier, because he could be released in the future and then harm another family. But here, the way it's worded, it's not so much worry about that, but more frustration in that the unrelated gun charges could have a higher severity in sentencing than the actual murder of Dylan Rounds itself, which is a bit of a mockery in a way in the case and could be seen as disrespectful. Anyway, let's move on. Aggravated murder, a first-degree felony, carries a term of 25 years to life, with an option for prosecutors to seek the death penalty. Right, okay, so that explains that there. 25 years to life, and that's aggravated murder. Murder by itself, which is on Brenner now because it's been reduced from aggravated to just murder, was 15 years to life. So, there's not a big gap between the years, to be fair, but with aggravated murder, there is the option for prosecutors to seek the death penalty. And with Brenner, if Brenner's charges remained aggravated, then it could have led to the death penalty. But we already heard in the past that the death penalty was taken off the table because it was seen more as Brenner snapping and killing Dylan on the day, that it wasn't planned. But even back then, when it came to that conclusion, the actual term and charge on Brenner, aggravated murder, remained. And it's only been taken off now because of that plea deal. Prosecutors suggested reducing the charge to attempted murder as a way of possibly extending the jail term. Attempted murder is a first-degree felony punishable by 3 years to life in Utah. Attempted murder. But Candice Cooley doesn't want anyone to doubt what happened to her son. In quotes, some people will then start thinking he didn't do it, she explained. Oh no, that does sound dodgy. Boy. Attempted murder, punishable by 3 years to life. Wait, attempted murder, where's the other one? Hold on. Murder itself can face 15 years to life in jail, but attempted murder, 3 years to life. Why is attempted murder less than flat-out murder? Oh, pardon me. Yes, attempted. Not that it actually led to murder, but attempted. There was an attempt to kill someone, but it was unsuccessful, but you still get charged for that. So attempted murder was a situation with Brenner in the past with the Maryland shooting incident. It was seen as attempted murder. That was because at the time, the worker shot by Brenner did not die, but was injured in the process, and Brenner did shoot him in the leg. So seen as attempt to kill. But because of the lawyers and whatever back then, they reduced it to malicious wounding. harming, hurting someone, but not with the intent or attempt to kill. Okay, I understand that. I don't look at this often, so it just takes some time to, process. Yeah. Prosecutors suggesting to reduce the charge of Brenner to attempted murder as a way of possibly extending jail term. Oh, I see. So basically, you had aggravated murder. That's the charge on Brenner at the time. Then, because of the plea deal, reduced from aggravated murder, a serious charge, to just murder. And now prosecutors are now thinking of reducing the charge from murder to attempted murder. Bloody hell, talk about going backwards. Now, the prosecutors are taking in consideration that if they can reduce the charges to even a lesser, less serious charge, which is very disrespectful in the Dylan Rounds case, it could help with extending jail time, which, as a form of negotiating is kind of a good thing, because obviously the family want Brenner to be in jail for as long as possible, because if he is released early, he could harm someone else, etc. The family don't want that. So yes, extending jail time is good. But at the cost of that, you're going to reduce the charges on Brenner, which then, as Candice Cooley says here, people then may start doubting what happened to her son and doubting that Brenner was responsible. And then all that will do is give ammunition to the rats, the disease-ridden humans within the Dylan Rounds true crime community, and manipulate it and say, oh, look, we told you so. See, Brenner's innocent. And then it goes round and round in circles again. This is a disaster if it turns out like this, okay? See, you got to understand the wording here, like how further up they're saying how the gun charges could have a lengthier sentence than the actual murder charge. Could. Not that it has yet, but it could. And now here, prosecutors suggested. Not that it has happened, not that it will happen, but it was suggesting. I think it's stupid, right? Yeah, because apart that plea deal, you've already reduced it from aggravated murder to just simple murder, and now you want to reduce it from murder to an attempt to murder Dylan Rounds. How stupid is that? Because literally, Dylan was found in the ground, dead, okay? To say attempted murder, so Brenner attempted to kill Dylan, well, Dylan should still be alive, right? But obviously he's not. Yeah, it's just stupid, this, to be honest. And it'll only give ammunition to the delusional people out there in the true crime community when it comes to this case. So it's definitely an unpopular suggestion. And obviously Candice Cooley's not too pleased with it. And I understand. I do understand her. It's just making a mockery of the Dylan Rounds case and kind of reducing the actual importance and impact behind the case and what happened to Dylan. It's like diminishing the actual impacts and what happened to Dylan. Yeah, in quotes, some people will then start thinking he didn't do it. Because, people who may have never seen the case before or, haven't heard about it for a long time, you come around and you see in the news that Brenner has been charged with attempted murder. You'll think, oh, so Brenner didn't kill Dylan. There was an attempt to, but it was unsuccessful, and that's why he's been charged with that. But Dylan Rounds is dead still. So how did he die then? Oh, it must be someone else then. It must be someone else that finished Dylan Rounds off. You see how the confusion goes, and that's all because of these prosecutors suggesting an idea, which I think would go bad. Let me know your thoughts down below. This is kind of shocking, to be honest. Botched investigation. She's planning, Candice Cooley, to educate families in similar situations and change the laws with the help of her Dylan's Legacy project established in honour of her late son. There's a desperation on her part to stop similar cases in the future from turning into a circus show, like the desperate search for Dylan Rounds, her son. But Candice Cooley remains staggered at the ineptitude of the authorities dealing with Dylan's case. In quotes, she says, I need to get some of these laws in Utah changed, she told the US Sun with sheer desperation in her voice. In quotes, people don't understand the depth of the problems we have to deal with. A legislator was affected by an attempted murder case and lobbied to increase the sentence, but they forgot to lobby to change the murder charges. Desperate search as diver Virgil Price vanishes exploring World War II shipwreck days after eerie post vowing to never fail. Okay, in quotes, some of the people I've met recently, Kenneth Cully says, a state representative, a senator, don't know every law when I told them they were appalled. But it's unclear how long it would take for Candice Cooley to push through her attempts to change current legislation in her home state. Candice Cooley also says Brenner, who was the only suspect in Dylan's disappearance from their farm in rural Lucin, could back out of his plea bargain before the law is changed. Oh, damn. Candice Cooley also said Brenner could back out of that plea bargain. Well, okay, before the law's changed. So the law hasn't changed yet. So if Brenner does back out of that plea bargain, then what happens? They've got to dig Dylan Rounds back up out of an actual grave, take him away from home, and then bury him back in Lucin in the ground. Is that what you're supposed to do? I guess not, because that would be very stupid. But what would be the implications of Brenner backing out of the plea bargain? Because if Brenner backed out now, if that's what it means, Brenner has things taken from him. So what? His charge of murder would be upped to aggravated murder as it originally was. And sentencing as well would vary too. And then likely the main charges on Brenner in the Dylan Rounds case would have a lengthier sentence than the gun charges then. So it's like the reverse. But then if Brenner backs out and things get taken from him, what's the catch with the family? Because the family would have already got Dylan Rounds now and brought him home and probably did like a burial as well, a proper one. How did they miss out then? Family pain. That could cause further delays and headaches in a case that has already dragged on far too long for a family desperately searching for answers and closure. He can still back out at any time, she added. Showing us where Dylan's body was part of the plea detail, but that cannot be used against him if he backs out. No one is really sure what will happen if he backs out, but it could happen. Right. Okay. So that's the catch. Whilst the family may have got the closure now in bringing Dylan home, if Brenner decided to back out now from that plea bargain, whatever you want to call it, plea deal, if Brenner backs out from that now, despite already opening up and basically admitting him being responsible for the different charges because he's guided people to, the burial site where he buried Dylan, despite doing all of that, if Brenner felt he wanted to be awkward or stubborn, or he didn't like the way things are going for him right now, he could say, right, I'm going to back out. And the catch on the family would be more delays after more delays and just dragging it all out. So it's like more stress. And they've already put up with that previously. So more of that would get annoying. And Brenner has a bit of control and power that he can choose to extend things, to slow things down and cause pain, cause frustration on the family and friends, etc. within the case if he wanted to. And the major problem, as it's worded here, even though Dylan's body was shown to the authorities by Brenner, if Brenner backs out, no one is really sure what will happen, and that even though it's part of the plea, they wouldn't be able to use it against Brenner. So, So, even though Brenner has basically shown the location, and it kind of confirms he's, clearly responsible and guilty, he can just back out now, and then everything that he's shown to authorities is kind of ruled out against Brenner. So then there's less evidence on Brenner now. Wow. Is Brenner going to do that as a strategy or not? Makes you think, doesn't it? I want to know your thoughts in the chat. What do you think about this mentioned on screen? It goes on to say, the Dylan's Legacy initiative is just getting started, but Candice Cooley hopes it can help give the kind of help and support to others that she needed during her own darkest hours. Quote, these missing children cases can't turn into a circus show like the search for Dylan became, she said. Now we have the knowledge and experience to help people from keeping that from happening and getting them the right teams out there actually going to help them. Dylan Round's case timeline. We'll just look at this. I think it's very quick. Dylan Rounds disappeared over Memorial Day weekend in 2022. The following are the key developments in the case. So, yeah, will it mention it here? Dylan Rounds went missing and was likely murdered May 28th, 2022. Okay, but here's the timeline, the official one. This is probably good for people that aren't quite informed on the case or can't remember. So, May 25th, 2022. The last sighting of Dylan Rounds at his farm in Lucin, Utah? Well, that's incorrect. Not a good start, right? May 25th, 2022 was the last sighting by, let's say, the odd individual, because May 26th, May 27th, that's when Dylan Rounds was last seen in Montello, okay? Dylan Rounds was last heard from May 28th in the morning. As it's mentioned here, May 25th, it fails to mention that's when Dylan Rounds first came across Chase Venstra down Tacoma Road. Supposedly on the Montello side, because Tacoma Road runs through Montello, Nevada, across the border to Lucin, Utah. Okay? So this is a poor start in terms of how it's worded here. Okay? Dylan Rounds wasn't last seen at his farm on the 25th. Dylan Rounds was last seen by people, such as in Montello, Nevada, on the 27th. Dylan Rounds was last seen working on his farm as well on May 27th, but later on at night, 11:30 p.m. to 11:45, and that was by campers hiking and camping at Pigeon Mountains, or Little Pigeon Mountains, which is just south of Dylan's farm, but still within reach and view, and the sort of tractor lights on. So, just for context there. The next timeline, though, mentioned here, May 28th, 2022, Dylan Rounds speaks with his grandmother Karen Rounds on the phone. Correct. And is never seen or heard from again. Correct. Some additional details, though. The timing of when the call was roughly made was at the gate of the grain shed, and it was around 6:51 a.m. with the grandmother, where Dylan basically told her what he was going to do, park the grain truck in the grain shed, and then he was going to call back later. Never did. And because of that radio silence, family got suspicious and got involved. Shortly after his disappearance, Rounds boots. Right, okay, so this is kind of skipping ahead, which is very disappointing. So let me just fill in the blanks for you, okay? So when Dylan Rounds was last heard of was May 28th because of that phone call with the grandmother in the morning time. May 29th is when the grandmother Karen got worried because of the silence. Dylan never called back. So the grandmother, Karen, reached out to Don Hatley, who lives in Lucin, Utah, who had worked for Dylan previously and is longtime friends with James Brenner. Okay? The grandmother asked for Don Hatley to search around for Dylan, and supposedly Brenner too, to help tag along. Does that directly happen? Supposedly it does, but no word, no update from Dylan or anything. So the day after, May 30th, 2022, there is a consensus agreement that different family members, Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, grandmother, parents, friends, whatever, have all agreed that they've not heard from Dylan. So on May 30th, the parents decide to go down to Lucin, Utah to check out Dylan's farm to see if he's okay. On the way down, Candice Cooley in her vehicle on May 30th reports Dylan Rounds as a missing person officially. Don Hatley, on that same day, around the time of when Candice Cooley was making that call, Don Hatley gave her the green light to do so, which is a bit odd, but maybe it could be interpreted as Don was double checking around the area and property and confirmed no sign of Dylan, so he must be missing, and then Candice Cooley could do that. And that's what happened. On the 30th, when they got down there searching about, I believe that's when the boots were found. Does it say here? Shortly after his disappearance, Round's boots are found by his camper on the property near the Utah-Nevada border. Oh no. Oh no, this is worded bad. Dylan Round's boots were found not by his camper. That's misinformation. Dylan Round's boots were found at a dirt mound 100 to 200 yards away from the grain shed property and nearby where Brenner's trailer was. Okay? Grain shed property is 5 miles apart from Dylan's farm. Okay, so it's worded incorrect here. Then on the 30th, on the 30th, going down there, checking about, looking for things, coming across the boots, breaking entry to Dylan's vehicle, noticing that the gun is missing and key fob, etc., etc. Then comes May 31st. Kurt Wadsworth, a local from Montello, gets intel from an ex-girlfriend, supposedly a psychic reader, full of bullshit, basically. Kurt Wadsworth then calls in directly to Family First or police, either way, to tell them that Dylan Rounds is held hostage captive in Montello by Chase Venstra, Robert Aviles. Family go down there with police. False call, waste of time. Then comes the 1st of June, in which the gun or the key fob, I think it might be the gun, was found. It was returned to the trailer. And then the 2nd of June, the next item was returned, the key fob, or vice versa. Whichever way round, one item followed by the other on one day, then the next. So that was odd. Then came June 5th. June 5th is when there was a flyby done in which they found track marks in a wash, in the wash, the one what we've looked at, which was in the direction closer to the border of the Lucin, Utah, Montello, Nevada border, in that direction, going to Luray Wash, but just before that, that's when track marks were found. I think a few days later, maybe June 9th or June 5th, around there, that's when Heavy D went down, did a flyby over, came across Don Hatley's place of living, but it wasn't fully labelled back then. Then the next thing I remember, June the 10th or June 11th, when Brenner is taken in by police, but then released the next day. And then we go to around June 18th or June 19th, 2022. Dylan Round's phone is found at the bottom of the pond where it was disposed of. And in between, or not far in between, that's when Brenner was eventually taken in because of the gun charges unrelated to the Dylan Rounds case. Then you fast forward to June 30th, James Brenner, who was squatting on property near Rounds Farm, is arrested on gun charges. July 2022, Brenner is named the prime suspect in Rounds' disappearance. March 3rd, 2023, Brenner is charged with 1 count of aggravated murder and 1 count of abuse or desecration of a human body. That's correct. December 2023, Rounds' mom shares her frustration over yet another delay as Brenner's trial is pushed back to May 2024. April 9th, Brenner leads authorities to Rounds' body near the Utah-Nevada border as part of a plea agreement. Okay, and now we've seen the plea agreement details. The failure of Box Elder cops to bring in expertly trained sniffer dogs, for example, to help with the search was something Candice Cooley didn't want anyone else to encounter. So the lack of search dogs early on was detrimental to the case. We also heard from Candice Cooley that mentioned that when she was in the presence of the LE early on, But the police refused to use the Bloodhound unit because it was raining, and it reduces it down to a 20% chance of success in locating a person. So they decided not to utilise it. Great shame, missed out opportunity, excuses in a way. The same thing with the drones. Got the drones, but we don't have the pilots. Well, that's useful. So it's examples like that. As well, early on, the police not giving the thumbs up for Texas Equisearch to join in and help. It was done later, so a bit too late there. It goes on to say, the ramifications of taking the law into your own hands is the absence of official help from the authorities, however, can be a notoriously difficult legal minefield to navigate. Well, I guess, because you're not the authority, but you're trying to speed up the case, but at the same time, you don't want to harm any sensitive evidence. Okay. Here. In quotes, what people don't realise is that if you send out an uncertified canine and law enforcement doesn't invite the canine in, any evidence found can get thrown out by defence attorney, she revealed. So basically, if Lance Kelly did that and the police didn't welcome or invite that canine in, Lance Kelly with his own cadaver dog, and that was done at the time of the Dylan Rounds case, if any evidence was found, that could have thrown out the whole entire case, and Lance Kelly could have literally destroyed the Dylan Rounds case if it actually happened. Oh shit, that doesn't sound good, does it? Anyway, Candice Cooley is not releasing the details of where Dylan was found for fear of locals flocking to the area. Yeah, about that. From some big mouths out there, supposedly people have flocked to the area already. And although they are not present on the day Brenner led cops to the site, she has been there since. She revealed Brenner was trying to spin an off-the-wall crazy story in a sick attempt to claim his innocence. Authorities have confirmed Dylan was shot after a dispute on the property they own, but there are no further details. Okay, so what that viewer said about how Dylan was killed, it's been revealed here. So to be honest, this news article is extremely important. It reveals the implications of the plea deal details, the actual charges and sentencing, which could apply to Brenner, which doesn't sound too good. It reveals the details of the mother being present at the burial site where Dylan was buried originally, and it also mentions the cause of death for Dylan Rounds. I don't know how I'm going to title this video because the more I read on with this article, the more important information there is. Personally, I really don't want to make this video title vague, but it is difficult to fit all the details in, so maybe I call it Dylan Rounds breaking shocking news, details revealed about plea deal details, and cause of death. I think that's probably the most appropriate title. See, I don't like how other true crime channels are so vague. At times when it's really important, I like to be specific so we know exactly what we're looking at even before we've clicked on the video, right? And that applies to me as well, because sometimes I look back at my old videos and details and I need quick, short, snappy titles or keywords which I can search for on YouTube or studio mode, and then I know exactly which one it is and what it's about. So there's a lot to take in here, okay? So the implications of, in the past, of if you used to go out there yourself searching and volunteering, if you do it wrong, it can impact the case, and that's why Candice Cooley didn't want other people going out there, so I understand that. But Candice Cooley is not releasing the details of where Dylan was found, but she does know where he was found, at least. Candice Cooley feels that locals will flock to the area. Well, the thing is, that's already happened, okay? From what Big Mouths has said out there, okay? Candice Cooley has been to the site since. Candice Cooley revealed So let me just mention one thing here. Candice Cooley does not want to release the details of where Dylan was buried at because it could lead to it becoming a tourist attraction, basically. I get that. But it's not like legal reasons. It's just what she thinks. Okay, and what she thinks is it would be a bad idea. But if it was to be released, the actual location, there wouldn't be any legal implications or damage done. Not by it's mentioned here, or not by it's been mentioned by Candice Cooley. Okay? Because you think above, she highlights the severity of if a canine isn't invited but someone brings one along anyway and it finds evidence, then that evidence could be thrown out of the window by the defence attorney and then may harm the case significantly. But nothing's mentioned here about the case being harmed if the location of where Dylan Rounds was buried at was revealed publicly. So take that into consideration. We might have to look into that, okay? But just be patient for now. So luckily, or in a positive way, there's no like serious implications there. So if anything did come out, it's not the end of the world, but let's just move on. Candice Cooley revealed Brenner was trying to spin off the wall crazy story. Why? Claiming his innocence? What, now or in the past? A part of the plea detail, a part of leading authorities to the burial site and on the way coming out with a crazy story in claiming his innocence? Sounds like Brenner is getting a little bit desperate all of a sudden, isn't he? Interesting. And obviously the key point, authorities have confirmed Dylan was shot after a dispute. How it's worded here is exactly the same as the Maryland shooting. That Brenner back then, before the 2000s, was it 1960? I can't remember. That Brenner shot a worker because of a work dispute. And supposedly, well, as it's mentioned here, the same has happened here many years later. History repeating itself. That's bad. It says there are no further details, but I think I need to take a look at this myself. Let me get some screenshots. Because for them to do an autopsy to confirm the cause of death, it ties in with my next video, my next idea. Because I said to you that once we find out the details roughly of how Dylan Rounds died, then we can link it back to that time-lapse footage of what I originally proposed in the past. So be on the lookout for that video. There's more to come. Read more. Is that it? What's this? The US Sun launches, whatever. Brenner has been in prison for months, yet progress in the case has been heartbreakingly slow. We don't have closure yet, she said. There's still so much to go through. And if there's delays, and if Brenner backs out the plea deal, that can really harm it. Dylan Rounds went missing, and that appears to be it there. I would say that's probably one of the best news articles I've read in a long time when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case. So much information in different ways, all pieced together. Normally that type of stuff would be released bit by bit, spread out with time, but now on this occasion it's all together. And I'm still under the concept that this article created earlier in the day before this preliminary, I'm assuming, because of the wording, how it said this could happen, that maybe, that suggested, etc. Take in mind that when this video does come out, preliminary could have already happened and things have changed since, but, I've got to do the live premiere when people are actually around, and it just so happens that's later on in the day. So not much more I can do about that, but, with whatever happens next, I can cover it and give updates. And as for the burial site, we'll see. If you haven't already seen my short video, be sure to check it out, but I'll just bring it up anyway, just to reiterate it. Once again, unfortunately, there are humans out there treating it like an egg and spoon race competition, a rat race in which who got the information first, who knows it first, who's reporting on it first as for the location of where Dylan Rounds was buried at, treating it like some kind of childish competition. At the end of the day, what should matter, and the only thing that should matter, is the execution and how it's distributed. If it's just all words, all talk, no action, that's not good enough. If it's presented badly or it's done in a disrespectful way, that's not good enough. And if it's done with poor wording or language, like how it's done by 9 times out of 10 of humans, most out there who've reported on stuff, not good look, doesn't look good. But in time, if there is a time, and if it is necessary, and if it is possible, I will cover it myself, okay? and I'll make sure I do a good fucking job. Believe that when it comes to the map analysis. I am the map analyzer for good reason, okay? I mean, just like recently I came across a map, but in real life, and I looked at it and I thought, what the hell's all that about? Couldn't even really understand it. And then suddenly I just picked up like, well, already been there, done that, boom, all under control. Just like that, 0.5 seconds, that's all it took, all under control. But saw me take those screenshots earlier on in this video, and that's for good reason, because that follows with my own videos and ideas. As I said, when official details come out or formal details come out, then I can branch off from my earlier ideas, and that's exactly what I can do in between. So be on the lookout for videos here and there. There is more to come. We'll see if there's any more shocking twists or turns. Might even have to redo the intro of this video, because the way I did the intro of this video was, hi there, we're looking at some breaking news and new information. Yeah, more to it than that, right? So I'll just readjust that just to highlight the importance of this, because this is very important and there's a lot of details to take in mind. If you need to rewind back, feel free to do so. If you joined late into this live premiere, rewind back to the start. You don't want to miss anything or any of the details, okay? So we'll leave it there for now, see what happens next. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.